Hey peeps, today I wanted to talk about Aperture and just trying to explain to you what Aperture is without all of those technical terms that everybody is using or those technical videos that you're seeing. So I'm trying to break it down into the simplest terms so that you can understand it as a beginner. Another commonly used term in the world of photography for your aperture is called your f-stop. For example, my lens goes all the way from f19 to f1.8. All right. And when I'm showing you these pictures here that I'm about to go into and show you, I really want you to pay attention to the background. Full disclosure, before I begin, I have been doing photography for over 9 years. So in order to try to get the similar lighting here, I did adjust my shutter speed and my ISO to compensate for the lighting. This picture right here was shot at the highest aperture on my lens, which is f19. As you can see that background, you can see that texture, you can see the pattern, you can see the water droplets back there. So not only is the rose in focus, but that background is also kind of in focus. The whole picture pretty much is in focus. This one right here was shot at f11, and you can still see that background texture. You can still see that pattern, and you can still see that water that is splashed back there for creative purposes. The rose is still the center of attention, but you can see that background is not as clear or as focused. This picture right here is shot at f9, so my aperture is at 9, and you can kind of see that background is starting to turn a little bit blurrier than it was before. That rose is still the center of attention. The overall picture is actually has a really good focus still. So this is f9. So this right here is shot at f5.6, and the rose is really more in focus in the background. The background is still there. You can still see that pattern, but that texture detail is gone, and those splashes of water now look a little bit like dots. So that is f5.6. This one right here is at f2.8, and you can see that background is really blurry, and that area, the surface area before that rose, is really blurry too. You can see now that that rose is really in focus, and that is your main focus. And last but not least, this is shot at f1.8. So if you can look at that background, it is completely melted. You can still see that pattern there back there, like the colors and the shades, but that texture is completely gone. And when you look at a picture like this, your focus really does go towards this rose and not towards the background and the water and the splashes back there. And even the stem is actually out of focus. So again, this is f1.8 on my lens. So I wanted to show you a faster version of the evolution of going from F19 all the way down to F1.8. Let's start with F19. This is F11, F9, F5.6, F2.8, and finally F1.8. So the biggest takeaway here is that the higher the aperture, for example, f19, gives you a more overall clear picture, whereas a lower aperture like this one here at f1.8 is going to have a main focus and it's going to melt that background. So when somebody's talking about the depth of field, the main focus, this is exactly what they are talking about. Going from the higher f-stop to the lower f-stop really changes the way the picture is going to present itself and how people are going to go and focus on whatever it is that you're trying to get them to focus on. And this is essentially the reason why people lower their f-stop. Now, I will say this much: if 1.8 is a little bit difficult to shoot, I personally like 2.8, and that is my safe zone, really, where I like shooting. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Please come back for some other videos that I will be uploading that will be a little bit more geared towards the shutter speed and other parts of photography for beginners and people that don't really feel comfortable with the technical terms yet.